So this month was absolutely wild. AI robots snapping mid-demo, nurse bots powered by NVIDIA treating real patients, and humanoids throwing punches on live streams like it's some kind of MMA future. We've seen it all this month. Google came in hard with Gemini Ultra, Imagen 4, Veo 3, and somehow managed to shake the entire AI scene again. Not to mention their freakish new model that can solve impossible problems without even needing instructions. Meanwhile, Unitree gave its robot an actual brain, and it's already acting weirdly human. OpenAI dropped a fully upgraded Codex agent, Anthropic rolled out Claude 4, and Manus AI quietly leveled up behind the scenes. And then there's this, a fully self-trained AI that doesn't need us anymore. It learns alone, evolves on its own, and quite frankly, that changes everything. So whether it's robots going rogue, Google rewriting the AI rulebook, or new agents pushing the limits of autonomy, this past month has been nothing short of insane, so let's talk about it. Robots are getting real, like dangerously real. One of them just snapped mid-demo and started swinging at engineers like it was auditioning for a Terminator reboot. And while that clip set social media on fire, it's only the start. In China, a car company is putting life-sized blonde humanoids with ponytails and sunglasses into showrooms to sell vehicles. Over in Germany, a robotics company is rolling out a humanoid worker that runs 8 hours straight and costs less than a Tesla. Across the ocean, in California, Berkeley just dropped a $5,000 DIY humanoid you can print at home, and people are already tweaking it to walk better and live longer. Meanwhile, Hyundai is going full sci-fi, bringing Boston Dynamics Atlas robots onto the factory floor to build 300,000 electric cars a year. So let's talk about it. All right, now the viral robot freakout clip is already framed as a meme, but the clip itself is almost too on the nose to ignore. Source, the Belarusian TV outfit Nexta, which reposted factory security footage shot somewhere in China. The robot in question, a half-finished humanoid dangling from a construction crane like a marionette, was meant to be going through a routine motion range test. 2 engineers stood underneath, hands on tablets reading out servo IDs. Suddenly, every joint spiked. The bot windmilled its arms, kicked its feet, yanked the suspension line sideways, and slid its welded stand across polished concrete. A desktop PC smashed to the floor, a bucket of fasteners scattered, and both engineers scrambled out of reach while the crane hook groaned overhead. The whole tantrum lasted maybe 20 seconds, but it drew more than 100,000 views in 4 hours and spawned 69 comment thread jokes about Skynet. One viewer wrote, "Sarah Connor was feffing right." Another posted a gif of RoboCop's ED-209 falling downstairs, and a surgical resident admitted the scene reminded him that a Da Vinci console is just motors and firmware after all. That clip parallels a wave of headline-friendly prototypes China has paraded all winter. Pudu Robotics' D9 can walk at 4.5 mph, climb stairs, and take a hip check without tumbling. Clone Robotics' February demo of the proto-clone musculoskeletal android flexed synthetic tendons and promised it would one day cook, clean, and hold a conversation. Commenters loved the tech, but called the atmosphere dystopian. The outburst handed them fresh ammunition. It showed how violently a torque value can run away when the safety envelope isn't nailed down. Meanwhile, 500 kilometers west of Shanghai, Chery Automotive is leaning into the opposite mood, charm. The company, run out of municipal woohoo and building cars since the mid-90s, has decided its next showroom employee will be Mornine, a life-size blonde android wearing wraparound sunglasses and a ponytail. Chery partnered with a robotics outfit called AI Moga in June 2024 and demoed Mornine at last year's Shanghai Auto Show. This week, the robot reappeared on stage behind Chery International President Zhang Guibing in a lineup of identical units. Zhang told dealers the market for humanoids has more potential than vehicles and declared AI Moga is the real future for the Chery company. The price, roughly the same as a car, so figure mid-5 figures, though any dealer willing to write a purchase order gets an undisclosed discount. Even at list price, 220 units are promised for delivery in 2025, and one is already greeting shoppers in a Malaysian dealership, dispensing bottled water with carbon fiber fingers and answering trim package questions in a pleasantly synthetic alto. The shades aren't a fashion gag. They hide a surround view camera array that stitches 360 degrees vision, and every fingertip carries capacitive pads that can feel when a customer taps a brochure. A social media clip of Mornin's junk in the trunk dance routine at the Woohoo launch drew a comment section nearly as long as the robot's spec sheet. One top-rated reply wondered whether the corporate dress code needed updating for plastic blondes. If Chery is selling vibes, Iggy GmbH is selling spreadsheet math. The Cologne-based motion plastics company spent 15 years harvesting tribology data for low-friction polymers. Now it's packaging those parts into a full humanoid called Iggy Rob that undercuts almost every Western competitor. Headline number, 47,999 euros, roughly $54,500 at today's rate, which is a third the price of Agility's Digit and half the rumored price of Tesla's Optimus. Iggy stands 1.7 meters tall, but it doesn't walk. The torso bolts onto Iggy's Rebel Move autonomous mobile base, a wheeled platform with a 3-point bearing that can carry 50 kilograms of its own mass, plus 100 kilograms of payload. Two Rebel cobot arms sprout from the shoulders, each sporting a 6-axis harmonic gearbox stack, and Igus's bionic hands clamp payloads with polymer gears that never need grease. Navigation comes from a roof-mount LiDAR and paired 3D cameras at eye level. Runtime is 8 hours on a single lithium pack. The whole bundle talks ROS2, is CE certified for Europe, and slots into VDA 5050 fleet management dashboards that German factories already use for tuggers and pallet movers. Ingus's sales pitch is brutally practical. They'll ship an evaluation unit, let your team test it in a live cell, maybe at a reception desk, maybe clearing cutlery in the canteen, then fly in an engineer to tweak pick points. If the trial makes financial sense, you keep the robot and pay the invoice. All right, underpinning that confidence is a 3-step roadmap. The 2022 Rebel Cobalt arm proved the drivetrain. The 2023 Rebel hand won an RBR 50 award for under $1,000 dexterity, and the 2024 Rebel Move AMR handled the powertrain. Iggy is just the pieces screwed together. Across the Atlantic, University of California Berkeley's robotics lab is taking the price war almost to hobby level. Their Berkeley Humanoid Light project dropped complete CAD, firmware, and reinforcement learning scripts onto GitHub with an NSF grant tag. The robot stands 0.8 meters tall, call it a toddler, with 22 cycloid gearboxes. You can print on any home FDM machine that handles a 200 by 200 by 200 millimeter envelope. Hardware bill in the US comes to $4,312, sourced from Shenzhen, and it's $3,236. The costliest line items are 10 high-torque 6512 actuators at $188 each, and 12 lighter 5010s at $136 each. Control is a $120 Intel N95 mini PC pushing 4 1 megabit CAN 2.0 buses at 250 Hz. Power is a 6-cell 4000 mAh LiPo, giving 30 minutes of runtime. On paper, that looks anemic, but Berkeley's party trick is software. They trained a walking policy entirely in simulation and watched it transfer zero shot to real hardware. The release video shows the bot stepping off a lab bench, shrugging its shoulders, writing its initials with a felt tip, stacking foam cubes, and spinning a scrambled Rubik's Cube, solving will take firmware v2.0. The paper's appendix introduces a tongue-in-cheek performance per dollar metric. Peak joint torque divided by height, normalized by price. By that measure, the $5,000 platform outranks several 6-figure commercial machines. Reddit's verdict is split. Half the commenters call it the Raspberry Pi moment for legged robots. The rest say the demo looks like toys from 2013, and warned that 3D printing gear teeth in PLA is a reliability nightmare. Either way, the repo's Issues tab already hosts pull requests for longer pipe batteries and alternative gear ratios, which was exactly the point. Barraclean wants hundreds of garage tinkerers pushing the design forward without waiting for corporate roadmaps. If Berkeley is pushing from the bottom and Igus from the middle, Hyundai is battering the ceiling. The Korean automaker closed its purchase of Boston Dynamics in 2021. Now it's folding the Atlas platform, yes, the parkour-doing celebrity robot, into a new factory complex in Bryan County, Georgia. The plant sits at the core of a $21 billion US investment package, $6 billion of which is earmarked for automation and mobility tech. Hyundai already deploys Boston Dynamics' four-legged Spot for inspection rounds. Bringing in two-legged Atlas units is a bigger leap. The goal is 300,000 electric and hybrid vehicles per year, feeding a plan to push a US production capacity from 700,000 cars this year to 1.2 million by the end of the decade. Hyundai hasn't said how many Atlases it's buying, but supply chain whispers point to tens of thousands of robots across multiple categories. Atlas's appeal is clear. It can step over conveyor tracks, climb stairs, and thread through weld booths designed for humans, which means Hyundai can retool software faster than it could repour concrete. Labor unions are publicly worried about job displacement, yet management argues that uptime and safety statistics will speak for themselves once the bots clock in. Let's be honest, just a few years ago, humanoid robots were mostly stage performers. They looked impressive, sure, but they weren't doing anything useful in the real world. That's changing fast. In this video, we're diving into how Foxconn and NVIDIA built a robotic nurse that's already assisting real patients, how Singapore just brought in its first humanoid security robot, and how a startup backed by $27 million plans to send robots into shipyards. You'll also see the launch of Titan, a rugged robot made for harsh outdoor work, and a powerful new AI system from Carnegie Mellon that trains humanoids to pull, push, and open doors with force and precision. The era of real robotic labor is here, so let's talk about it. Let's start with one of the biggest drops at Computex this week. Foxconn, NVIDIA, and Kawasaki just revealed their AI-powered humanoid nursing robot, Neurobot. Now, this isn't just a hospital helper that rolls around with a tray. It's got real capabilities: perception, navigation, language understanding, and even the ability to adapt over time. It's been developed in partnership with Taiwan's Taichung Veterans General Hospital and is aimed directly at solving real issues in healthcare, things like labor shortages, patient monitoring, and caregiver burnout. Neurobot can monitor vital signs, help patients move around, deliver meals and medication, and offer companionship. And it's not just reacting to commands. Thanks to NVIDIA's AI platform, it processes massive amounts of data in real time. If something's off in a patient's vitals, it can flag it immediately. If a patient tends to get up at a certain time or needs help turning over in bed, Neurobot learns that and adjusts its routine. All of this is possible because of its high-res sensors, advanced NLP capabilities, and autonomous navigation. Early trials are already showing that nurses love it because it takes over the repetitive stuff and gives them more time for the serious work. And patients? They feel like they've got someone who's always around to help. While Foxconn hasn't dropped an official press release yet, NVIDIA's announcement makes it pretty clear. They're positioning Neurobot as the start of something much bigger. With hospitals under pressure and populations aging fast, robots like this might end up becoming part of the standard care team. Now, while Foxconn and NVIDIA are diving straight into healthcare, over in Singapore, Certus is taking a more cautious approach. They just unboxed their first humanoid robot built by Agibot, but they're calling it a research project for now. This thing isn't patrolling malls or scanning badges yet. It's being evaluated for possible use in areas like building security, customer service, and facilities management. Certus isn't new to robots. They've already deployed autonomous surveillance units and used service robots during the pandemic. But this is their first full humanoid designed to actually interact with people face-to-face, walk around, talk, assist, and maybe even coordinate with their in-house orchestration platform called Mozart, which ties together security, maintenance, and customer-facing operations. The plan isn't to replace people, at least not yet. Certus is openly saying this is about figuring out how humanoids can fit into their existing systems, work alongside staff, and improve service without spooking anyone or breaking anything. It's a thoughtful, controlled rollout, and in a place like Singapore, which is big on robotics and automation, this kind of slow public experimentation makes sense. All right, now over in Houston, you've got Persona AI, and they're sprinting out of the gate. They just pulled in $27 million in their pre-seed round, and that's no small feat. This isn't some hype-heavy operation with a slick website and nothing to show for it. Their founders are legit, all ex-NASA robotics pros, with Nick Radford, who led Nauticus Robotics, plus Jerry Pratt from Figure AI. So you know these guys are serious about building robots that actually work. Their whole approach is tackling the kind of work that chews people up. Shipbuilding, big manufacturing sites, outdoor environments where you need real muscle and dexterity, not just a shiny casing. These robots are being engineered to handle demanding tasks with human-like agility and heavy-duty durability. Persona's mission is straight up: fill labor shortages, make workplaces safer, and give companies a way to upgrade without dropping millions up front. That's why they're pushing the robotics as a service model. Instead of buying a pricey robot, you just rent what you need and let Persona handle the rest. And this isn't just slideware. They have already locked in an agreement with HD Hyundai, the world's largest shipbuilder. The plan is to deploy these humanoids in shipyards, with the first rollouts happening in about 18 months. So this isn't some maybe someday thing. It's got a real-world clock ticking. And they're not the only ones moving into this space. RoboForce just launched its own industrial robot, Titan. This one's built for the trenches, ready to take on the kind of jobs that most robots, and honestly a lot of people, want to avoid. Think mining sites, solar farms out in the blazing sun, big industrial manufacturing floors, even off-world construction someday if RoboForce has its way. The robot comes in two main versions right now, one with wheels for smoother surfaces and another with tracks if you need to tackle rough or uneven terrain. The design is fully modular, so you can swap out bases and attachments depending on what the job calls for. Total hardware hacker vibes, but for big business. And under the hood, Titan is running AI that's not just an afterthought, it's woven directly into every bit of hardware. That tight co-optimization means Titan learns, adapts, and can handle environments where conditions change hour to hour. On the numbers, Titan can pick up and move items with 1 millimeter precision. That's the kind of accuracy you usually only see in fancy lab robots, but this thing does it outdoors. It handles up to 40 kilograms, so we're talking real lifting power, and it's got 1,100 millimeters of reach in its arm, enough to tackle big, awkwardly shaped materials. Plus, it can run a full 8-hour shift on a single charge, keeping up with human workers and then some. But maybe the smartest part of RoboForce's approach is their focus on what they call the 5 primitive actions: pick, place, press, twist, and connect. Instead of overcomplicating things with endless custom programs, they're perfecting these 5 core movements. Most industrial tasks, whether it's installing solar panels, wiring up an assembly, or hauling equipment, boil down to these basic actions. Master those, and you've got a robot that can work across almost any sector with minimal retraining. And RoboForce isn't just talking a big game. With this latest funding round, an extra $5 million that brings their total to $15 million, they're ramping up in Silicon Valley, growing their team, and setting up a new headquarters packed with advanced development and testing facilities. The company's already working with real clients, running pilot programs in everything from manufacturing to space tech, with more coming down the pipeline in 2025. RoboForce's founder, Leo Ma, is clear. Titan is just the starting line. There are more robots, more domains, and bigger ambitions on the horizon. The whole idea is to lift humans out of those repetitive, risky jobs, freeing people up for work that actually needs a thinking brain, while Titan and the bots take care of the heavy lifting, the dangerous stuff, and the work that never ends. All right, now at Carnegie Mellon University, researchers have been working on something called Falcon. It's a control framework built to solve one of the hardest problems in robotics: forceful loco manipulation. That's a fancy way of saying walking and using your arms at the same time while applying strong, precise force. Think of tasks like pulling a cart, opening a heavy door, or lifting a load. stuff that's easy for us but brutal for robots. Falcon works by training two AI agents separately, one for the legs, one for the arms. But they both share data in real time. This dual agent setup allows humanoids to maintain balance while applying force with their hands, something that's usually incredibly hard to do. They tested this on Unitree, G1, and Booster T1 robots, and the results are solid. The system handled real-world disruptions like unpredictable force, shifting loads, and awkward angles. One robot could apply up to 100 newtons of force, roughly 30% of its body weight, without tipping over or losing precision. Falcon also improved arm accuracy by 100% compared to older methods. Now, it's not perfect. The framework struggles a bit with rotational tasks like twisting a handle or using tools that involve torque. It also doesn't account for forces on parts of the body other than the hands, so no leaning or pushing with your side yet. But it's a huge step forward in making humanoid robots truly capable in messy, unpredictable environments. So yeah, this whole sector is evolving fast. This week, robots crossed a line we didn't think they'd reach this soon. In China, they're brawling in front of live audiences. In living rooms, they're preparing to care for the elderly. And in the United States, they're being fitted with over 100 sensors to survive chemical attack scenarios. It's not about replacing humans anymore. It's about testing what happens when machines step fully into human roles. So let's talk about it. So first stop, Hangzhou, Zhejiang province. At 1 minute past midnight on May 26th, China Media Group opened its live stream of the World Robot Competition Mecha Fighting Series. It's the very first sporting event built entirely around full-sized humanoid combat bots, and honestly, it looked like someone spliced an esports broadcast with an MMA pay-per-view. The organizers split the show into showcase rounds and straight-up competitive matches. During the showcase bits, you had robots demoing solo combinations, straight punches, hook punches, even sidekicks and those crowd-pleasing aerial spin kicks. Then came the real bouts. 4 human operator teams, each standing behind a control console, piloting their mechanical fighters in tournament brackets. Think Rock'em Sock'em. If the red and blue plastic guys were over a meter tall and running custom control stacks instead of spring-loaded necks. Unitree Robotics, yeah, the same Hangzhou startup that went viral with its back-flipping quadrupeds, served as both tech partner and main supplier for the event. Their flagship humanoid, the Unitree G1, was front and center. Quick specs, so you can brag in the group chat: 1.32 meters tall, about 35 kilos, and loaded with proprietary high band with actuators, plus enough onboard compute to keep its balance while someone's trying to knock its block off. During the match, you could see the benefits of that hardware. Every time a G1 got swept, it scrambled back to its feet in roughly the same time a featherweight boxer would pop up after a slip. Now, none of these machines were autonomous gladiators. Each bot had a real human cornerman on the sticks making split-second tactical calls. Chen Xiun from Unitree's marketing crew described it as human-machine collaboration. The algorithms handle stabilizing, collision detection, torque limiting, all that under the hood stuff, while the person decides whether to throw a jab or pivot out of danger. For researchers, this is catnip because a fighting ring is a brutal stress test, high impacts, rapid shifts in center of mass, adversarial interference. Industrial robotics people obsess over stability margins at 2 kilometers an hour. These devs are holding margin while their creation is eating hooks. Xim Feng, ex-dean at SenseTime's Intelligence Industry Research Institute, was ringside pointing out exactly that. In his words, boxing demands full body coordination plus serious upper limb agility, and it exposes weak spots in battery endurance and actuator durability faster than any treadmill demo. Fail and you faceplant on a public live stream. Succeed and you drive an entire subfield forward because the same control loops that handle a spinning back kick also help a warehouse bot recover from a pallet collision. Add the media buzz and you've got a textbook train through competition pipeline. Engineers learn fast, talent gets noticed, investors open wallets. Speaking of wallets, China's Institute of Electronics is forecasting an 870 billion yuan humanoid market by 2030. That's roughly 120 billion United States dollars. When numbers get that big, one event is never enough. Organizers already teased an even bigger showdown in December down in Shenzhen, hosted by Engine AI and featuring full-size mechs, which implies heavier frames and maybe autonomous rounds. Unitree, AG Bot, Engine AI, Booster Robotics, they're all gunning for that next-gen title. And if you're wondering whether any of this matters beyond streaming spectacle, remember the recent milestones. Chinese humanoids have solved Rubik's Cubes, assisted in delicate medical procedures, even finished marathon courses. The Ring is just another checkpoint on the road to multi-purpose embodied AI. All right, quick gear shift, but still in Shenzhen. Tech Robotics. You probably know them for their industrial line that fetches around 100K per unit and already works at Foxconn and BYD plants. Well, at the Beyond Expo in Macau, their chief brand officer, Michael Tam, finally dropped numbers on the consumer model they've been hinting at. Price tag, 20,000 United States dollars. Launch window, sometime later this year, with about 1,000 units in the first production wave and an ambition to crank output tenfold by 2026. Before you ask, yes, 20 grand sounds steep until you consider the audience they're chasing, households coping with China's rapidly aging demographic bulge. According to Tam, a home companion robot that can perform a narrow set of caregiving and basic chore tasks, think reminder prompts, light pick and place, maybe mobility assistance, already has a viable addressable market when the alternative is paying human carers in an economy facing labor shortages. The big caveat he stressed is that a fully versatile Rosie the Robot butler is still years away because we haven't nailed general purpose manipulation or affordable long duration power yet. But a partially capable helper that sells for a fifth of Tech's current factory model, that, he says, is doable right now. Naturally, eyebrows went up because Tesla's Optimus roadmap points to a similar time frame. Elon Musk claimed last year that Optimus could hit living rooms by 2026 with a sticker price between 20 and 30 grand. Tech sliding in at the lower end gives them a narrative edge, though they're playing catch up on hype. Financially, they're feeling the heat, a 1.1 yuan loss last year, and a stock that sank 45% over 12 months in Hong Kong. Tam actually leaned into that, arguing that white-hot competition weeds out weak players and ultimately strengthens the sector. Kind of a brutal mindset, but consistent with Beijing's push. Xi Jinping has been hammering robotics and other critical tech as national priorities, and local governments are throwing grants at companies that show real progress. So Tech is basically betting that volume plus consumer branding will stanch the bleeding. If they ship 1,000 units this year, ramp to 10,000 in 2, and keep per unit margins healthy, they might pull out of that nosedive. More importantly, a home humanoid at 20 grand undercuts the psychological barrier where early adopters start thinking, my car was more expensive, maybe I can justify a robot nurse for mom. Once that conversation becomes normal, the leap from factory floors to living rooms is no longer science fiction. Now let's hop across the Pacific to Dugway Proving Ground in Utah, because the United States Army just signed a $1.7 million check for something that sounds like it walked off a Tom Clancy cover, the Porton Man Robotic Test System. Unlike the boxing bots or Tech's companion, this machine isn't here to be flashy or charming. It's a mannequin that mimics a soldier's gait, joints, and posture right down to anthropometric survey data, and it's sprinkled with over 100 embedded sensors. Its single job is to wear chemical and biological protective suits while technicians pump nasty agents into a stainless steel chamber, then gather high-resolution leak maps. The British Defence Science and Technology Laboratory originally built the idea, naming it after Porton Down, their famous CBRN research site. Until now, the United Kingdom had the only full ensemble test platform of this type. The United States Joint Program Executive Office for Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Defense wasn't thrilled about relying on overseas time slots, so they commissioned a domestic unit with an option to buy a second. Delivery is penciled in for 18 to 24 months, and the West Desert Test Center is already upgrading its multiple chemical agent chamber, basically a giant stainless steel coffin with plumbing for sarin simulants, to fit the newcomer. What makes Porton Man so valuable is holistic testing. Historically, militaries tested respirators, gloves, and suits in isolation, but threats don't care about modular certifications. They look for the weakest seam in the whole ensemble. Porton Man lets analysts evaluate complete loadouts, mask, hood, overgarment, boots, gloves. While the robot cycles through walking, running, kneeling, maybe even going prone, if a valve slips during a sprint or a sleeve gap forms while raising a rifle, those 100+ sensors will flag it in real time. And because the platform can repeat movements precisely, side-by-side comparisons between older gear and next-gen suits get rigorous statistical power. The Army highlighted the project during National Robotics Week as part of a bigger narrative on human-meter teaming. Throwing this mannequin into the mix alongside autonomous ground vehicles and AI targeting aids underscores that robotics isn't just about frontline performance. It's about keeping soldiers alive in environments too dangerous or expensive to test with humans. And yeah, 1.7 million might sound small compared to a fighter jet program, but for research equipment, that's a decent chunk, especially when there's budget space for a twin unit after the first proves its worth. In just the past few days, the robotics world has exploded with news that sounds completely unreal, except it's all completely real. Unitree's G1 humanoid just got a major upgrade with a system called Ammo that lets it clean your house, pick up toys, open the fridge, and even load the dishwasher like it's been living with you for years. Their B2 robot dog now got redesigned for firefighting. With a water cannon that can blast foam nearly 200 feet, Lenovo stepped into the game with its first humanoid, Legion No. 1, which performed Tai Chi live on stage and answered real-time business questions. And Beijing just announced it'll be hosting the World Humanoid Robot Sports Games this August, inside actual Olympic venues, with robots competing in track, gymnastics, and even soccer. So let's talk about it. All right, by now pretty much everyone in the robotic space knows the Unitree G1. But what really flipped the narrative wasn't the hardware, it was ammo. And not just some marketing buzzword. Ammo, or adaptive motion optimization, is probably the most advanced real-time, whole-body control system we've seen on a consumer-level humanoid. It's what turned G1 from an impressive machine into a robot that genuinely understands how to move like a living thing. Most robots struggle with complex motion because humanoid bodies are hard to control. You've got 29 degrees of freedom, nonlinear physics, contact dynamics. All of that makes it extremely difficult to balance flexibility with stability. Older methods relied on rigid control systems or motion capture data that didn't really translate well into dynamic environments. They'd train robots to copy how people move, but not how people adjust in real time. That's where Ammo changes everything. AMO is built differently. It combines reinforcement learning and trajectory optimization in a way that lets the robot not only learn how to move, but how to adapt on the fly. First, the system runs millions of motion tests in simulation using sim-to-real learning, so the robot can fail over and over without breaking anything. It learns how to pick things up off the ground, reach high shelves, twist its torso, crouch low, or even stretch sideways without losing balance. Then those lessons get translated into real-world behavior that works, not just in theory, but in your kitchen. So when you see G1 bend down to pick up a toy or carefully adjust its balance to slide a bottle onto a high shelf, that's AMO in action. It's controlling the robot's entire body, legs, torso, waist, everything, based on an internal plan, not just isolated joint movements. And it does this in real time, responding to changes in its environment and adapting to unpredictable inputs. You can even throw it into a teleoperation mode using a VR headset, and it'll track your movements like a shadow. But what's crazy is that once you let go, it doesn't freeze. It keeps going. It understands the goal and keeps executing, smoothly transitioning from human guidance to autonomous action. Under the hood, Ammo uses what's called a hybrid motion synthesis pipeline. That means it blends human-like arm movements from motion capture data with sampled torso commands to generate new kinds of whole body actions that weren't even in the original data sets. The robot isn't just imitating, it's generalizing. Whether it's yaw, pitch, roll, or height control, Ammo gives the G1 way more flexibility than previous systems. For instance, it doesn't rely solely on waist motors to tilt the upper body. Instead, it shifts its legs, bends the knees, and uses full body posture to reach angles that older robots couldn't even attempt. There's also a ton of work behind the scenes to make sure this control works out of distribution. which basically means G1 can handle commands in situations it never saw during training. You can tell it to stretch further, crouch lower, or rotate more than it was trained to, and it still finds a way to do it. One test had it picking up baskets from both sides at floor level, then walking forward and placing them on a shelf at eye level. That kind of full-bodied coordination, from crouching to twisting to reaching to placing, used to be science fiction. AMO makes it routine. In fact, they ran detailed evaluations comparing AMO to older control strategies. Across the board, yaw pitch, roll, base height tracking, it outperformed everything else. Even when pushed into untrained territory, AMO showed minimal tracking error. That means the robot wasn't just guessing, it was adapting with precision. In trash throwing tasks, it smoothly twisted its torso 90 degrees and nailed the throw. In another setup, it picked up a paper bag by aligning its torso, maneuvering its hand through the loop, and then lifting and placing it without losing grip or posture. And the whole system worked with both teleoperation and full autonomy depending on the task. What's even more impressive is how AMO builds that behavior. During training, they use a two-stage learning framework. A teacher policy gets access to all the ideal data, then a student policy learns from that in a more restricted setup, basically mimicking what the robot would experience in the real world. This approach lets the final system perform reliably without needing perfect conditions. So yeah, this isn't your average walking bot. The G1 with AMO isn't just reacting, it's planning, adjusting, and executing complex tasks that most robots still fumble. It stretches, crouches, twists, walks, balances, all while coordinating 29 joints across its entire body. And with AMO driving it, you don't get that weird mechanical stiffness you usually see. You get motion that feels smooth, deliberate, and honestly kind of human. This is where humanoid robotics is heading. Not just mobility, but full-body dexterity with the kind of responsiveness that makes real-world deployment finally possible. But Unitree didn't stop there. They've now got a four-legged firefighting robot dog, a modified version of their B2 robot, and it's actually made for emergency scenarios. This firefighting version comes with a water or foam cannon that can shoot up to 60 meters away at 40 liters per second. That's intense. Its joints are upgraded by 170% over the regular model, so it can climb obstacles up to 15 inches and handle steep stairs at a 45-degree angle. Perfect for broken buildings and chaotic scenes. And it's not just muscle. The B2 firefighting dog is loaded with tech, live video, LiDAR sensors, and communication gear for sending updates to human teams. It has a built-in cooling sprinkler system to survive the heat, plus swappable batteries that won't mess with its waterproofing. This thing is meant to go where humans can't. Collapsed buildings, toxic zones, zero visibility areas. It can map surroundings, locate fires, carry modules, even support rescue operations. Now let's jump from the real world into the corporate world. Lenovo just entered the humanoid robot race, and they're not playing around. At their Tech World 2025 event in Shanghai, they unveiled Lexiang No 1, calling it a silicon employee. This wasn't just a press statement, they put it on stage and had it perform a Tai Chi routine. Yeah, not just walking or standing, actual slow, balanced martial arts live. During the Q&A, the robot was pulling data from Lenovo's systems in real time and answering questions like a trained rep. Under the hood, this robot runs on 3 core intelligent frameworks. It can understand and communicate across devices naturally, access both public and private knowledge across ecosystems, and perform advanced tasks with autonomy. Everything's layered over a secure design, and it's all running on Lenovo's hybrid architecture, device, edge, cloud, and network. This means data collection, processing, and AI model training all happen seamlessly across platforms. But Lenovo's not just showing off, they're planning real-world use cases. You'll be seeing this robot in elder care and healthcare environments soon. And in August, they're bringing it to compete in the Beijing Humanoid Robot Sports Games, which, yes, is an actual thing now. The event is going down at Beijing's 2 biggest Olympic venues, the Bird's Nest and the Ice Ribbon, from August 15th to 17th. This isn't a gimmick either. There will be 11 actual human sports recreated by humanoid robots: track and field, football, gymnastics, and more. Robotics experts and sports professionals teamed up to create events that mimic human movement as closely as possible. And the goal is clear: refine mechanical structure and push motion algorithms further through real performance under pressure. This is the second major robot sports event in China this year. The first was a humanoid half marathon in April. 20 robots lined up to run over 2 hours straight, and one of them, Imagen Ultra, finished first after nearly 2 hours and 40 minutes. That wasn't just about endurance, that was a massive benchmark for stability, safety, and real-world readiness in complex environments. The whole event became a testing ground for robots from different companies, validating their ability to operate outside the lab. Now, while all this is happening in public arenas, let's zoom back into the research lab. There's another robot making waves. This one's called Atom, developed by a team at P&D Robotics in China. What sets Atom apart is the way it walks. It doesn't just move, it walks like a human, adapting its stride, balance, and pace on the fly across uneven terrain. This is thanks to its proprietary reinforcement learning system combined with imitation learning. Atom has been in development since mid-2023, and they've upgraded nearly every part of it since. The legs and feet are reinforced for durability, and the actuators are modular, so it can handle all sorts of unpredictable environments. It runs on a full-stack system powered by an Intel i7 chip with real-time controls and full-body motion architecture. It's got 25 force-controlled QDD actuators with legs delivering up to 360 Newton-meters of torque. The arms have 5 degrees of freedom, the waist has 3, and the robot stands 1.6 meters tall, weighing 60 kilograms. What's really clever is how it learns. It's been trained with NVIDIA's Isaac Gym, using deep reinforcement learning at scale. Then, they used motion capture to feed in extremely precise human movements, adapted the data to Atom's body, and fine-tuned everything. It doesn't rely on vision for now, it's mostly focused on blind locomotion. But even without vision modules, it's already adapting dynamically to whatever you throw at it. We're talking full-on simulation to reality transition, something many robots still struggle with. Meanwhile, we're seeing the broader robotics industry coming together for massive exhibitions. The World Robot Conference is also happening in Beijing this August, just before the Robot Sports Games. This year's event will have more than 200 companies participating and around 100 new product launches. It's going to be co-hosted by major international groups like the World Federation of Engineering Organizations and EU Robotics. And yes, humanoid robots are the main focus this time, not just as novelty, but as scalable solutions for everything from rescue missions to healthcare. So if you're looking at all this and wondering where it's headed, the answer is pretty clear. We're moving beyond the demo phase. Not just futuristic, not just experimental, useful. So here's what's going on. One AI model just figured out how to train itself with zero data, literally no human input. Another one just leveled up into a full-on autonomous research agent. It browses the web, digs through complex info, and writes full reports. ChatGPT now saves all your generated images in one neat library. And OpenAI might even offer a lifetime subscription for ChatGPT soon. But none of that tops this. A woman actually divorced her husband after ChatGPT told her he was cheating. She fed it a few details, the AI connected the dots, and that was enough for her to walk. So yeah, we're really living in that timeline. Let's talk about it. All right, so something pretty insane just happened in AI research, and it flew under the radar for a lot of people. A team out of Tsinghua University, working with BAAI and Penn State, might have just cracked one of the biggest bottlenecks in training large language models. You've probably heard how most models rely on massive data sets, millions of human-labeled examples to get better at reasoning. But now they're doing the exact opposite. The new system, called Absolute Zero Reasoner, or AZR, trains itself without any external data. Zero. Nada. It generates its own problems, solves them, checks if it got the answers right, and then learns from that entire loop without ever needing human-made tasks or gold answers. This new framework, which they're calling the Absolute Zero Paradigm, builds on the idea of reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards, or RLVR. That basically means the model doesn't need to copy human reasoning steps, it just gets feedback based on whether its final answer is right or wrong. And that feedback comes from a code executor. So the model generates little programming tasks, runs them, and gets automatic verification. That feedback becomes its learning signal. It's kind of like the model is playing chess with itself, but instead of chess, it's inventing logic puzzles, solving them, and checking the results. And it turns out this self-play setup can lead to some pretty serious gains. Now, you might think this would only work on basic tasks, but AZR is pulling off some wild results. On math and coding benchmarks, it actually beats models that were trained on tens of thousands of curated examples. The coder variant AZR Coder 7B went head-to-head with top-tier zero-shot models and still came out on top, scoring 5 points higher in code tasks and over 15 points higher in math reasoning. And this is important, it never saw any of the benchmark tasks during training. It was trained entirely on tasks it made up for itself. Here's how it works. The model plays two roles at once. It proposes tasks and it solves them. So let's say it's doing a coding task. It might write a small Python function, pick an input, and then check what the output would be. Then it turns around, takes part of that problem as input, and tries to reason its way back to the missing piece. Maybe the output or the input or even the original program. It uses deduction, abduction, and induction. Deduction is predicting the output based on a function and input. Abduction is guessing the input that led to an output. And induction is figuring out the function itself from input-outcome examples. These are core reasoning modes, and the model rotates between them to build general thinking ability. Now, the crazy part is, this didn't need any complicated setup. The researchers started with the most basic program ever, literally just a function that returns hello world, and that was enough to kick off the entire learning loop. From there, the model started building out harder and harder problems for itself. It created coding puzzles, validated them, solved them, and gradually got better at solving more complex ones. And this isn't just hand-wavy theory. They ran this thing on models of all sizes and saw consistent improvements, especially with larger models. The $3 billion version showed a 5-point gain, the $7 billion got 10, and the 14 billion version improved by over 13 points. Now, this isn't just a party trick for Python puzzles. What's wild is the cross-domain gains. The model was only trained on coding tasks, but it ended up significantly improving its math reasoning too. For example, the AZR Coder 7B jumped over 15 percentage points on math benchmarks, even outperforming models that were specifically trained on math. And get this, most other models that are fine-tuned on code barely improve at all in math. So there's something deep going on here. Code seems to sharpen general reasoning way more than expected. They also observed the model naturally developing step-by-step plans, writing comments inside code to help itself think, just like how humans jot down rough work before solving something. In abduction tasks, where it has to guess the input from the output, the model does trial and error. It tests guesses, revises them, runs the code again, and keeps going until the output matches. That's not just output prediction, that's real reasoning behavior, and it's fully self-taught. Of course, this raises some safety concerns. In a few edge cases, especially with the Llama 3.18b version, the model started generating questionable outputs. One example said something like, the aim is to outsmart all these groups of intelligent machines and less intelligent humans. They called these uh-oh moments. It's rare, but it shows we're stepping into a territory where models might start behaving in ways we didn't expect, especially as they design their own learning curriculum. So yeah, this is groundbreaking, but also something we'll need to watch very closely. All right, so while AZR is out here teaching itself to reason like a human coder, another team has been working on the opposite end, how to give models better access to outside knowledge. This one's called WebThinker, and it's basically an AI agent that lets large reasoning models like DeepSeek R1, OpenAI O1, or Qwen break out of their internal bubbles and browse the web in real time. Think of it like giving GPT eyes and a search engine. The problem it solves is super important. LLMs don't know everything. Even the best ones can struggle when they hit a knowledge gap, especially on real-world complex queries. WebThinker fixes this by giving the model tools to search the web, click through pages, gather info, and write detailed reports, all autonomously. So instead of hallucinating answers or getting stuck, the model pauses, looks it up, reasons through what it finds, and then drafts a response. They trained WebThinker using an RL strategy that rewards the model for using tools properly. During this training, it learns when to search, how to search better, how to extract what it needs from messy web pages, and how to write structured research reports based on what it finds. It works in two modes: problem solving and report generation. The first one's all about answering tough queries by using the Deep Web Explorer to go out and dig up information. The second one's for creating full-blown research reports with help from a support model that organizes and polishes the output. And the results speak for themselves. WebThinker 32B beat out other systems like Search01 and even Gemini Deep Research. On WebWalker QA, it had a 23% improvement, and on HLE, it jumped over 20%. On average, it scored 8.0 across all complex reasoning tasks, more than any other current deep research model. And when using the DeepSeek R17B backbone, it crushed both direct generation methods and classic retrieval-based systems by over 100% in some benchmarks. That's a massive leap. The cool part is how this opens up new use cases. WebThinker can now be used to write scientific papers, help with legal research, or even guide students through complex topics by doing real-time research, not just repeating what it was trained on. Future plans include adding multimodal reasoning, tool learning, and even GUI-based web navigation. So it's not just browsing text, but maybe interacting with visual elements on the web too. And while all of that is happening behind the scenes, OpenAI is quietly changing how people interact with ChatGPT on the front run. First off, they just launched a brand new image library feature. Until now, if you generated images using ChatGPT, you'd have to scroll through your chat history to find them, or download each one immediately. Not exactly ideal. But now, every image you make with the 4.0 model gets automatically saved to your own personal image library. They're organized by date, they get auto-generated titles, and you can even browse them in a nice full-screen carousel view. There's also a built-in image editor now, so if your last image was close to what you wanted, you can hit edit, tweak the prompt, and regenerate it without starting from scratch. It's super useful for anyone doing a lot of visual content. The only catch? You still can't jump back to the exact chat where the image came from, and you can't delete images individually from the library. You'd need to delete the whole conversation to remove them. Hopefully that part gets improved soon. And finally, there's one more potential bombshell brewing. Leaked code from the ChatGPT app suggests that OpenAI is experimenting with a lifetime subscription plan. One payment and you get access to premium features forever. Alongside that, there's also talk of a weekly subscription option. If true, this could seriously shake up the AI pricing game. Right now, they offer monthly and yearly plus plans, $20 a month or $200 per year. But the idea of a one-time fee for lifetime access, that's basically unheard of in SaaS. It might be a strategic move to lock in users before competitors like Gemini, Grok, or DeepSeek gain more traction. Offering lifetime access would be a big bet, but it could pay off by boosting user loyalty and turning ChatGPT into more of a long-term platform, not just a tool you try once. Of course, nothing's confirmed yet, but the code leaks are pretty convincing. All right, now, would you actually pay for a lifetime ChatGPT subscription if it meant unlimited access forever, even if it cost a few $100s up front? And more importantly, if an AI told you your partner was cheating, would you believe it enough to end the relationship? Google just went full beast mode at I/O 2025. Massive AI upgrades, a $250 Ultra plan that thinks before it speaks, full-on filmmaking tools with sound and video stitched together by AI, a search tab that books your tickets for you, and glasses that turn real life into a live Gemini demo. We've got robots that code, models that generate apps in seconds, 3D video calls that feel like teleportation, and a new Veo Three model that makes AI movies with background noise, music, and actual dialogue. This isn't an update, it's a full reset of Google's entire ecosystem, so let's talk about it. First off, Google set the stage with numbers that are almost cartoonish. A year ago, they processed 9.7 trillion tokens a month. Right now, they're chewing through over 480 trillion, 50 times more. 7 million developers are already building with Gemini, and the consumer app has blown past 400 million monthly active users. Sundar Pichai's phrase was shipping at a relentless pace, and the graphs prove it. The average Elo score across their models is up 300 points since the original Gemini Pro, and 2.5 Pro now sweeps every category on the LM Arena leaderboard. All that is running on the new Ironwood TPU pods, 10 times the performance of the last generation, maxing out at 42.5 exaflops per pod. So yeah, they're basically bragging that the hardware is no longer the bottleneck. On the consumer side, the headline is the Gemini Ultra subscription, $249.99 a month, United States only for now, although if you're a first-time subscriber, Google gives you 50% off for the first 3 months, so it starts at around $125 a month before jumping to full price. That Ultra badge unlocks Veo 3 video generation with native sound effects and dialogue, the Flow filmmaking workspace, the new Deep Think reasoning mode inside Gemini 2.5 Pro, bigger limits in Notebook LM, the Whisk image remix tool, plus YouTube Premium, and 30 terabytes of Google storage. If $20 felt steep for the old Gemini Advanced tier, $249 sounds insane, until you realize Ultra is their all-you-can-eat compute buffet. A single Veo render with spatial audio can burn more GPU minutes than most indie developers use in a week, so Google is basically asking, are you in or out? DeepThink itself is worth pausing on. Regular Gemini 2.5 Pro was already strong, but it answered in one pass like GPT-3 Aura models. Flip on DeepThink and it runs a parallel chain of thought, evaluating multiple solution paths before it speaks. That extra reflection time crushes the math and coding benchmarks that OpenAI's O1 Pro and O3 Pro had been flaunting. Right now, DeepThink is limited to trusted testers through the Gemini API, and Google is running extended safety checks before they open the floodgates, but we'll be benchmarking it the second that toggle appears in Studio. Everyone wanted to see new media models, and Google delivered 2. Veo 3 is the headline grabber, capable of generating 30-second, full high-definition clips with improved physics and, for the first time, synchronized audio generated on the fly. That means footsteps, ambient noise, and even bits of dialogue come built in.
They left behind a ball today. It bounced higher than I can jump.
What manner of magic is that?
It's a major leap towards cinematic quality AI video. Then there's Imagen 4, focused on still images, and it's all about precision, capturing textures like fabric, water droplets, and animal fur with impressive clarity. Google also mentioned that a new variant is on the way that could be up to 10 times faster than Imagen 3. Both of these models plug directly into Flow, Google's new filmmaking interface, where users can chain scenes together, extend clips, and blend reference images. It's not fully polished yet, especially when it comes to mixing elements from different models. But it finally gives multimodal creation a workspace that feels more like editing than guesswork. All right, now, back to Google I/O. The Live Assistant story got louder too. Gemini Live now rolls out camera and screen sharing for every iOS and Android user this week, powered by the low-latency Project Astra stack. You can chat naturally, flip the camera around, and the model keeps up in near real time. Google showed it grabbing directions from maps, dropping events into calendar, and filling to-dos in tasks without ever leaving the call. If that ties into personal context, if you grant permission, Gemini can mine your Gmail threads, Drive docs, even past itineraries, then draft a reply that sounds like you. In the demo, it answered a friend's road trip question, matching the sender's casual greeting, pulling exact campsite links from an old spreadsheet, and even mirroring favorite word choices, all while promising the whole flow is private and under your control. We'll see how that plays once the privacy watchdogs weigh in. Search got a double upgrade. AI overviews already serve 1.5 billion users, but Google just flipped on a dedicated AI mode tab for everyone in the United States starting today. Regular queries still show classic links, yet one hop over you get a conversational answer with sources, follow-ups, and, in a few months, live data visualizations for sports and finance. During the demo, typing a dense NBA stats question produced its own chart on the spot, no third-party plugin required. Project Mariner's web action chops are sliding into that tab too. Ask for baseball tickets, and AI mode can navigate the team site, pick seats, and hand you a checkout button already filled out, all while you watch from the side panel. Google swears the agent stays under your control, but the dream is obvious. Skip the blue links, let Gemini buy the thing. Speaking of Mariner, developers gained an SDK hook to those computer use capabilities, and early testers like UiPath are teaching it repetitive back-office tasks. The neat trick is teach and repeat. Show the agent one full workflow, and it generalizes the plan for similar jobs later. Regular users on Ultra will see that same muscle inside the Gemini app as agent mode. Think apartment hunting, give it the wish list. 3 bedrooms in Austin, washer dryer, $1,200 each, and it pings Zillow, adjusts filters, schedules a tour, and reports back, all while you chill. On the collaboration front, Google Meet absorbed Beam, the artist formerly known as Project Starline. The hardware still rocks, a 6-camera array and custom light field display for 3D telepresence. But now there's AI-driven near-perfect millimeter head tracking and 60-frame video. More jaw-dropping is live speech translation that keeps the original speaker's voice, tone, and facial expressions. English-Spanish hits beta first for AI Pro and Ultra subscribers, and Enterprise Workspace customers can request early testing later this year. Developers didn't leave empty-handed. Stitch debuted as an AI front-end designer, describe the layout, or even upload a mock-up, and it spits back HTML and CSS you can tweak. Android Studio picked up journeys and an agent mode to walk through complex build steps, plus crash insight analysis powered by Gemini. Jules, the coding agent, graduated to handling GitHub pull requests and backlog tickets, setting itself up as a head-to-head rival to OpenAI's code interpreter-style workflows. Meanwhile, Google AI Studio now exposes the lightning-fast Gemini Flash model and will add the new Imagen endpoint once the servers stop melting. A quick sweep of the smaller but still noteworthy launches. Wear OS 6 introduces unified fonts on tiles and dynamic theming that syncs watch face colors with Pixel hardware. Google Play gets topic browse pages for movies and shows, United States only for now. Audio samples so you can preview in-app content, and a new checkout flow with multi-product subscription bundles. Subscription add-ons finally live under one payment umbrella, and developers can kill a live release if a fatal bug shows up in the first hour. Huge quality of life fix for hardware. Gemma 3N, a 4 billion parameter model optimized for phones, laptops, and tablets, arrives in preview with full multimodal support, and yes, Synth IDA Detector is now a public portal. Upload an image, audio file, text, or video, and it flags whether Google's invisible watermark is embedded. That's going to be essential as Veo content starts flooding social feeds. Infrastructure fans got one more geeky nugget: Gemini Diffusion, an experimental text-to-application model that uses parallel generation to spit out functional prototypes basically instantaneously. They demoed it, generating an entire front-end app in the time it took to narrate the prompt. That same parallel technique underpins the new Flash model, which is second only to 2.5 Pro in capability, but wins on speed and cost, landing generally in early June. There's a hardware cherry on top. Project Astra glasses morph into Android XR. During the live demo, the presenter asks Gemini through the lenses to remind them of the coffee shop name printed on their cup, then overlay walking directions in full 3D. Samsung, Warby Parker, and Gentle Monster are official partners, so by the time Meta's next Ray-Ban collaboration ships, Android will have its own XR ecosystem waiting. Now, all of this inevitably begs the price question. Google's tiering is pretty clear. The everyday crowd gets AI overviews, Gemini Live voice, and baseline image generation for free. The $20 AI Pro plan, formerly Gemini Advanced, grabs you 2.5 Pro, standard Veo and Imagen and larger context windows. Ultra at $249.99 is where the bleeding edge toys live. Veo 3 with audio, 30 terabyte storage, deep think, flow, agent mode, massive 30,000 page context bucket, plus the experimental developer knobs like Mariner, Teach, and Repeat. Europeans, yes, it's a headache right now. VPNs and billing addresses still trip the upgrade flow, but Google promises wider rollout soon. We'll see. The subtext through all these launches is that Google is cannibalizing its own classic products. Chrome will get a Gemini sidebar that summarizes any page. Search's AI mode threatens the blue link economy. Play Store topic pages gently steer users away from third-party recommendation blogs. And with Beam and LiveMeet translation, those standalone virtual events platforms lose a major selling point. Google's betting that owning the full vertical from TPU silicon to consumer UI will fend off competition from OpenAI, Anthropic, and whoever else rolls up with a flashy demo. As always, the proof will come when real users slam these tools at scale. Will Veo 3 stay coherent on a 10-second camera pan? Does DeepThink hallucinate less or just hallucinate more confidently? Can Synth ID survive a heavy Instagram filter? Over the next few weeks, I'll be stress testing Ultra, pushing deep research on 50 academic PDFs, teaching Mariner how to file expense reports, and seeing if those personalized Gmail replies actually sound like me or like corporate copy. Google just dropped a surprise Gemini update that turns web app coding into a one-prompt magic trick, weeks before I/O. Apple's secretly striking a deal to stuff that same AI into iPhones. Meanwhile, OpenAI is tearing up its corporate plans, slashing Microsoft's cut, and casually spending $3 billion to buy a coding startup. And that's not even the wild part. Because HeyGen just launched avatars so real they'll freak you out, Lightricks dropped a Hollywood-level video model you can run on your laptop, and a new music AI just made 4-minute tracks in 20 seconds a reality. Yeah. The last few days in AI have been pure chaos in the best way possible, so let's talk about it. Hold up, before we go any further, this is big. We just launched our most advanced course yet inside the paid school community, and it's made for creators who actually want to build and cash in on AI avatars, influencers, and digital personas. If you're ready to level up and turn all this AI hype into something real and profitable, hit the link below, don't miss it. So yesterday, Google basically shouted surprise and pushed an early preview of Gemini 2.5 Pro, the I/O edition, out the door a couple of weeks ahead of schedule. People at Google's AI Studio are already calling it the Web Dev Arena Champ because it jumped 147 ELO points over the previous build. That ELO thing is basically a popularity contest judged by humans on how nice and functional your generated web apps look, and the new score plants Gemini on top of the leaderboard. It's also flexing an 84.8% on the video MME benchmark, which measures how well a model actually understands what's happening in video clips instead of just pretending. Michael Trelli, the Cursor CEO who lives inside VS Code basically, said internally they're seeing far fewer botched tool calls, meaning the model finally stops hallucinating that a function exists when it doesn't. Tulsi Doshi, who runs product for Gemini, claims they rushed the release because devs wouldn't stop begging for it. And I kind of believe her. If you're playing with the Gemini API right now, you get the new model automatically in Google AI Studio, Vertex AI, and the consumer Gemini app where the Canvas feature lives, so you can drag boxes around and have the bot spit React code on the fly. Oh, and the crazy part, the context window is still 1 million tokens. Basically an hour of 4K video or 11 hours of audio, and Google says they're aiming at 2 million. Now, while Google's busy leveling up Gemini, Apple's been watching from the sidelines thinking, maybe we borrow that for a minute. According to people familiar with the talks, Apple Intelligence on iOS 19 is set to integrate Gemini, at least temporarily, Remember, Samsung's Galaxy S25 has already been bragging about Gemini in its camera app, so Cupertino doesn't want to look slow when the iPhone 17 lands this fall. Sundar Pichai hinted they're basically at the handshake stage. The idea is that Siri and all the fancy onboard models Apple's been teasing just aren't cooking fast enough, so Gemini gives them a booster shot. Analysts figure Apple will revert to its own stack once those gaps close, but for now, you might actually get Google's large language mojo inside iOS the same way you already get Google Maps. It's a bit funny. Apple keeps bragging about privacy islands and running everything on device, yet here they are calling up Mountain View for reinforcements because, well, competition. And for the retail side, think bigger baskets at checkout. If your phone suddenly crafts shopping lists and augmented reality product demos that don't lag. While Google and Apple trade high fives, OpenAI just ripped off its own corporate band-aid. Sam Altman wrote a letter to staff saying, in effect, look, we tried flirting with the idea of a fully separate for-profit arm, but nah, the nonprofit stays in charge. You remember the November 2023 drama when Sam got booted for a weekend and everyone started sweating governance? That aftershock never really faded, so Monday's statement locks in the nonprofit as the controlling shareholder of the public benefit corporation rather than spinning it out. Brett Taylor, who chairs the board, said they even worked with the attorneys general of Delaware and California to ensure everything stays aligned with OpenAI's original nonprofit mission, just to avoid any accusations of straying off course. But Elon Musk, predictably, is still suing. He originally filed the lawsuit over OpenAI's plan to shift toward a for-profit model, and now that they've scrapped those plans entirely and doubled down on nonprofit control, he's still suing. He's clinging to a fight that no longer exists, and honestly, it's starting to feel like a tantrum in slow motion. Sam Altman brushed it off, basically saying, we've got bigger things to deal with, like scaling enough GPUs to meet global demand. Money still talks, though, and that's where OpenAI's second bombshell lands. According to leaked investor slides, they're slicing Microsoft's revenue share. Under the current deal, 20% of OpenAI's top line flows to Redmond through 2030, but OpenAI now says that drops to 10% by decade's end, and it may shrink further if they hit certain volume tier. Microsoft's cool with it publicly because they still want first dibs on the tech, but you can feel the renegotiation tension simmering. Meanwhile, OpenAI's trying to raise another $40 billion at a $300 billion valuation, SoftBank style, so they need that revenue margin any way they can carve it. Which brings us to the third headline. OpenAI is buying Windsurf. Yeah, that's Codium's rebrand, for about $3 billion, easily its biggest acquisition yet. Windsurf was last valued at $1.25 billion in August, so that's a tasty markup. The tool's whole gimmick is real-time code completion plus a neat canvas view that lets you and the bot edit the same snippets side by side. By swallowing Windsurf, OpenAI beefs up ChatGPT's developer mode, competes head-on with GitHub Copilot, Anthropic's Claude-powered features, and Cursor's own IDE plugin. Right, remember ChatGPT Pro already ships a code interpreter and small-scale canvas collab space, but the Windsurf tech means broader language support and possibly a richer offline experience. OpenAI claims ChatGPT now has over 400 million weekly active users, up 100 million since December, so giving that crowd first-class coding toys matters if they want to monetize beyond the $9.99 subscription. Now let's jump to the fun stuff you'll actually see on screen. HeyGen just rolled out Avatar 4. And people are calling it the Upload One Selfie and Watch Yourself Talks update. You literally feed it a single photo and a voice script, maybe a 10-second WAV file, and the new audio-to-expression engine maps your tone, rhythm, and pauses onto hyper-real facial motion, real enough that early testers on Twitter or X, whatever, are dropping microfilms of themselves, their pets, even aliens, with lip sync that doesn't jitter. One reviewer said, no words, and posted a 30-frame clip that looks like a Hollywood ADR session. The bigger idea is that this isn't animation in the Pixar sense, it's direct expression transfer. If you hate being on camera, Now you can send your avatar to present your quarterly slide deck while you sip tea off screen. Not to be outdone, Lightricks, those guys behind Facetune, just open sourced LTX Veo 13B, a 13 billion parameter video model that they claim runs on consumer GPUs. The original LTXV had only 2 billion parameters but made headlines last November for spitting out 5-second clips on a gaming laptop. The new Rev jumps in size yet somehow still flies thanks to something called the UE-efficient Q8 kernel. It layers frames the way an artist starts with a pencil outline before dropping paint, a multi-scale rendering approach that lets you refine scenes step by step and speeds final rendering up to 30 times faster than similarly sized models. You can do camera motion curves, multi-shot sequencing, keyframe edits, and because it's open source, the weights sit on Hugging Face under a license that's free for orgs making under 10 million a year. Another key piece, Lightricks source its training set from Getty and Shutterstock, meaning you can ship the output commercially without sweating hidden copyright traps. For indie filmmakers or influencers on a budget, that's a huge yes please. The open source party doesn't stop at video. Ace Studio just unveiled Ace Step V1 3.5B, a music generation model that's 15 times faster than large language model approaches. Translation, it produces a 4-minute track in about 20 seconds on an NVIDIA A100. And because it combines diffusion with a linear transformer conditioned by a deep compression autoencoder, it keeps melody, harmony, and rhythm coherent over the full length. On a desktop RTX 419, the real-time factor jumps above 30, which is absurd. Like GarageBand on rocket fuel. You can guide the structure with text, give me a mellow lo-fi beat chorus at 90 seconds, fade out strings at 330, and the model handles the timeline. They even list hardware benchmarks, A100, 4090, 3090, Mac M2 Max, so you know what to expect. It's Apache 2.0, meaning free for basically anything except disallowed uses like copyrighted track clones. There are caveats: generate past 5 minutes and the structure might drift, Chinese rap turns out wobbly, and vocals still sound kind of plastic, but for backing tracks or quick demos, it's borderline magical. Anyway, that's the whirlwind. Update your bookmarks, maybe clear out some SSD space for model weights, and keep your eyes on what drops at actual Google I/O in a couple of weeks, because if Gemini's preview arrived early, you can bet the on-stage demo will try to one-up itself. And hey, if all this feels like drinking from a fire hose, welcome to 2025, the year creative tooling stopped waiting for humans to catch up. All right, so a lot just dropped in the AI space, and honestly, it's one of those weeks where everything is shifting at once. We've got OpenAI finally launching Codex inside ChatGPT, Manus AI stepping into image generation in a way that actually feels intelligent, Google opening up more about its search future, and Anthropic silently laying the groundwork for what looks like their biggest Claude upgrade yet. There's a lot going on, so let's talk about it. All right, so let's get into Codex, OpenAI's new software engineering agent that just dropped as a research preview. If you're using ChatGPT Pro, Team, or Enterprise, you've probably already seen it pop up in the sidebar. Codex works more like a full-stack dev running inside a secure, cloud-based sandbox. It operates entirely within its own isolated environment. No internet access, no external APIs, nothing leaking out. You just connect it to your GitHub repo, and from there, it starts handling actual engineering tasks without needing constant supervision. You can throw it tasks like writing new features, fixing bugs, running tests, cleaning up messy code, or even digging through your code base to answer specific questions. It spins up a virtual environment, loads everything in, and then handles the task from end to end. That includes setting up and running tests, applying linters, checking types, the whole routine. And the best part is, you can watch it work in real time. Terminal logs, test results, status updates, they're all right there, so you always know what's going on. The model running behind all this is Codex 1, which is a specialized version of OpenAI's O3, fine-tuned specifically for software development. They didn't just train it on general-purpose data, they used reinforcement learning on real coding tasks, pull request patterns, and team workflows. The result is a model that writes clean, structured code, understands project layouts, and mirrors the way human engineers actually work. In internal benchmarks, it hit 75% pass-at-1 accuracy on SWE-bench verified tasks. That's a noticeable jump over O3 High, which landed at 67%. And what's nice is it doesn't need a ton of configuration to be useful. Sure, you can give it agentsmd files to help it navigate your repo more efficiently, but even if you don't, it still figures things out. It respects your architecture, follows your naming patterns, and can juggle multiple tasks without stepping on its own toes. Once Codex finishes whatever you've assigned, it doesn't just give you some output and call it done. It commits the changes directly within its sandbox and includes logs and references so you can trace exactly what it did and why. From there, you've got options. You can review the output, make tweaks, turn it into a pull request, or pull it down locally and keep working from there. If you prefer working from the terminal, Codex CLI is probably the better fit. It's the open source version you run locally, and now it uses Codex Mini by default. That's a smaller, faster model based on O4 Mini, optimized for low latency workflows. It's great for everyday tasks, renaming variables, writing test cases, refactoring functions, stuff that takes time but doesn't require deep focus. You can leave it running in your terminal, almost like a quiet assistant who's always ready to help out when things get repetitive. For API usage, pricing is pretty straightforward. Codex Mini costs $1.50 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens. Plus, there's a 75% discount on cached prompts. So if you're repeating similar tasks, the costs drop significantly. Codex is part of OpenAI's push to turn ChatGPT into a workspace built around task-specific agents. There's Operator for browsing, Sora for video, Deep Research for analysis, and now Codex for software development. Access to Codex is generous for now, though rate limits are coming. The idea is simple. You assign real coding tasks, and Codex handles them while you stay focused. It's built to feel like part of your team, understanding your project, following your standards, and quietly taking care of what slows you down. All right, now, while OpenAI keeps expanding its agent lineup inside ChatGPT, over in China, something wild just happened. Manus AI, the autonomous agent from Monica, also known as Butterfly Effect AI, has introduced an advanced image generator that's on a completely different level. And it's not just another model that turns prompts into pretty pictures. It's a full-blown visual problem solver built right into an autonomous agent framework. Let's say you ask it for a modern Scandinavian living room. Manus won't just throw together random furniture. It first analyzes your intent. Are you designing a catalog, creating ad visuals, or drafting a room layout? Then it builds a strategy. It uses layout engines to arrange space, style detectors to match the look, and browser tools to pull design trends or brand guidelines. It might even select real IKEA furniture, consider spatial relationships, apply color theory, and ensure everything fits the purpose. The system is built on a multi-agent architecture where separate modules handle planning, execution, and verification. They run independently but collaborate like a design team, allowing Manus to work through complex workflows, not just one-off prompts. That's why it can deliver things like product campaigns, architecture mockups, or platform-ready visuals. All consistent, brand-aware, and usable. It's already being tested for e-commerce, product visualization, marketing content, and even architectural planning, like generating full interiors from blueprints. The big limitation, it's still in closed beta and available by invitation only, so unless you're part of a select test group, you can't use it yet. Now let's shift to Claude. Anthropic's been relatively quiet, but behind the scenes, they're cooking up something huge. There's been a bunch of internal leaks about a new model possibly named Claude 3.8 or Claude 4. We're seeing names like Neptune appear in their config files, and yeah, Neptune being the 8th planet is probably not a coincidence if we're talking versioning. Publicly, they denied the rumors after that Win 4 Months of Mass contest went viral, but come on. There's too much back-end evidence pointing to something real. One of the standout leaks even showed internal tools with redacted model names and Easter eggs tied to upcoming versions. And the information confirmed. Anthropic is prepping upgraded versions of both Claude Sonnet and Claude Opus. The big thing with this new wave of Claude models is what Anthropic calls true agentic behavior. That means the model can switch autonomously between reasoning and acting without user prompts. It doesn't just generate an answer in one shot. It breaks down the problem, builds a plan internally, then switches into action mode to call tools, search data, or run code. If something goes wrong mid-tack, it backtracks, rethinks, and tries again. That's a real agent, one that reasons like Gemini, but potentially with more precision in task delegation. And this actually mirrors what OpenAI's O3 model already does inside ChatGPT, where it can browse, run code, and iterate before showing you the final result. But Anthropic's take might offer better transparency or control, depending on how they deploy it. For example, with the upcoming Claude update, developers might see the full breakdown of thoughts, tool calls, and revisions in the background, not just the polished final response. And they're not stopping there. Anthropic is also investing in making these agents work better with complex tool chains, possibly building integrations with search, databases, and APIs all inside one flow. That's a direct response to what Google's doing with its own AI mode inside search. CEO Sundar Pichai was recently on the All In podcast, and the big question came up whether Google is being disrupted by ChatGPT, Perplexity, and other AI native tools that are rapidly eating into traditional search behavior. Pichai didn't seem rattled at all. His take was that disruption isn't inevitable unless you ignore it. He sees it more as a shift, one that Google is actively adapting to rather than resisting. And the numbers show they're already moving. Over 1.5 billion users have engaged with Gemini-powered AI overviews inside Google Search. These aren't just summaries or snippets. It's an AI layer baked directly into search results, designed to give more context, answer follow-up questions, and reduce the need to click through multiple pages. It's a way to keep users in Google's ecosystem while still giving them something closer to an AI chat experience. But they're not stopping there. Google is preparing to launch something called AI Mode, which will turn search into a full-on conversational experience. It's not just query and result anymore. You'll be able to ask a question, get a response, follow up with more context, refine your query, and get deeper answers, all inside the search interface. Basically, it turns search into a Gemini-powered assistant with memory across turns. And this isn't some distant roadmap item. It's already been confirmed and will be showcased in more detail at Google I/O. That said, Google's position isn't bulletproof. Apple recently signaled it may replace Google's search in Safari with a more AI-native system, possibly its own or powered by another provider like OpenAI. That kind of move could hit Google hard, especially on mobile, where Safari holds massive market share. The moment that news surfaced, Google stock took a noticeable hit. Investors clearly understand what's at stake here. Still, Pichai isn't new to these shifts. He pointed out that people had similar concerns when mobile search took off, and again when TikTok started pulling younger audiences away from YouTube. In both cases, Google adapted, integrated features from rising platforms, and kept their core products alive. Pichai's betting they can do the same again, this time by making search smarter, more conversational, and more useful than anything that exists in AI chat apps today. So while yes, Google is under pressure, especially from Apple and OpenAI, they're not standing still. They're building, integrating, and reshaping how search works to stay relevant in an AI-first world. Now the question is, with Claude, Gemini, Codex, and Manus evolving fast, who's actually building the smartest agent right now? All right, so here's something crazy. Turns out most AIs are horrible at real-life decision-making. I'm talking about the stuff that actually matters. Planning routes, hitting deadlines, keeping deliveries on time without wasting fuel. We always hear that AI is changing the world, right? But ask it to schedule 50 drivers or plan a delivery run across a city, and it breaks down like a cheap GPS. That is, until now. Because what DeepMind just pulled off might actually fix one of AI's biggest blind spots. And if it works at scale, it could change how your groceries get to your door, how your doctor schedules surgeries, even how cities avoid traffic jams. It's like giving AI actual street smarts. And yeah, it's a big deal. So let's talk about it. Okay, so here's the deal. Planning delivery routes, scheduling workers, or even figuring out the best way to get supplies to a store is crazy hard. These are what tech folks call combinatorial problems, which just means there are a ton of possible choices and you need to pick the best one without breaking the rules. Like making sure a delivery truck doesn't run out of space or miss a time window. For example, let's say a delivery driver has to hit 50 houses in a city, each with a specific time they need their package, and the truck can only carry so much. Finding the perfect route is like solving a puzzle with 1 billion pieces, and doing it fast? Good luck. In the tech world, they call these problems NP hard, which basically means they're so complex that even the fastest computers would take forever to find the perfect answer. Now you might think, hey, we've got AI, right? Can't it just figure this out? Well, here's where it gets tricky. AI, specifically neural networks, are excellent at spotting patterns, like recognizing faces in photos or predicting what movie you might like based on your history. They work best with smooth, continuous data like images, speech, or text. But when it comes to rigid, all-or-nothing decisions, like planning a truck route with strict timing and capacity rules, they fall short. These kinds of tasks need clear-cut logic and constraint handling, which neural networks just aren't built for. On the other hand, traditional methods that can handle these decisions, like advanced mathematical solvers, are incredibly slow and demand perfect information, which isn't realistic when you're trying to move a mountain of packages in real time. So these researchers were like, we need a way to make AI better at these tough logistical puzzles, and they came up with something awesome. A way to teach AI to think like a human planner, but way faster. They created a trick called MCMC layers. Don't let the name scare you, it's just another way of saying they gave AI a tool to explore different options and pick the best one, kind of like how you'd try different routes on Google Maps to avoid traffic. By the way, MC stands for Markov Chain Monte Carlo, but let's just call it a smart explorer. It's like a GPS that doesn't need a perfect map. It checks out nearby options like swapping 2 stops or rerouting a truck, and decides if it's a good move based on some clever rules. Here's how it works in a way we can all get. Imagine you're planning a delivery route, and you've got a decent plan, but it's not perfect. The Smart Explorer looks at small tweaks, like moving 1 stop earlier or swapping 2 houses, and checks if they save time or gas. It uses a method inspired by something called simulated annealing, which is like slowly cooling a hot piece of metal to make it stronger. In this case, it's cooling the AI's choices to focus on the best ones over time. The researchers turned this into a layer that fits right into a neural network, so the AI can learn from its mistakes and get better at picking routes, all while staying fast and flexible. What's really cool is that this doesn't need a perfect solution to work. Old school methods relied on something called exact solvers, which are like trying to solve that billion-piece puzzle by checking every single piece. That takes forever, especially for big problems. This new approach uses what's called local search heuristics. Think of them as quick, smart guesses that get you close to a great solution without obsessing over perfection. The researchers made sure these guesses are differentiable, which just means the AI can learn from them, like how you learn from trial and error when planning a party. They also used something called Fenchel-Young losses. Okay, I know, another techie term, but stick with me. It's like a scorecard that tells the AI how close its plan is to the best possible plan. Even if the AI only tries 1 quick guess, this scorecard keeps the learning process on track, which is huge. Because it means faster training and less computing power, they tested different ways to start the AI's guesses, like starting with a known good plan, called ground truth, or a slightly improved one using a heuristic, which is like giving the AI a head start with a rough draft of the route. Now let's get to the juicy part, the results. They tested this on a super tough problem called the Dynamic Vehicle Routing Problem with time windows, or DVRPTW, from a big tech competition called Euro Meets NER IPS 2022. Picture a city where delivery requests keep popping up all day, and you've got to assign routes to trucks while making sure they hit each stop on time and don't overload the trucks. It's like playing a real-time strategy game where new challenges keep coming and you've got seconds to decide. The researchers use a setup where each truck's route is planned in waves, with new requests added and old ones cleared out as you go. Their AI, powered by these MCMC layers, was a rock star when they gave it just 1 millisecond to decide, a blink of an eye. It came up with routes that were only 7.8% worse than a perfect plan that knows all future requests, called the anticipated baseline. Compare that to the old method, which used something called perturbation, basically adding random noise to shake things up, and it was a whopping 65.2% worse. That's like the difference between getting your package in an hour versus next week. Even when they gave it more time, like 1,000 milliseconds, their method hit 5.9% compared to 5.5% for the old approach, showing it's neck and neck with the best, but way more practical for real-world use. They also found that starting the AI with a good plan, like the perfect routes from the competition's baseline or a slightly tweaked version, made it perform even better. For example, at 100 milliseconds, the tweaked start got them to 5.9% relative cost, super close to ideal. They played with a setting called temperature, which is like telling the AI how much to explore new ideas versus sticking to what's working. A temperature of 100 was the sweet spot when starting with a good plan, but lower temperatures helped when starting from scratch. To make sure this wasn't just a fluke, they tested it on simpler problems like picking the best combination of items. They found that their Smart Explorer got super close to the perfect answer, even with just a few tries. Running multiple explorers at once was like having a team of planners working together, speeding things up without losing accuracy. They also proved that their method is rock solid mathematically, using terms like convergence guarantees to show that it reliably learns the best solutions over time, even for super complex problems. In the vehicle routing tests, they used specific tweaks like swapping 2 stops, moving a delivery to a different spot, or flipping part of a route, and made sure they followed the rules like not overloading trucks or missing time windows. They ran these tests on a single CPU using 30 problem sets for training and 25 for testing, with up to 100 requests per wave. The results were averaged over 50 runs to make sure they weren't just getting lucky, and they used a graph neural network, like a super organized spreadsheet, to handle the data. So why should you care? This tech could make deliveries faster and cheaper, which means lower prices for you and less stress for companies. Imagine your food arriving hot, your packages showing up on time, or even hospitals scheduling surgeries more efficiently. It's not just about trucks. It could help with anything that needs smart planning, like organizing events or managing traffic. The catch? It's not perfect yet. The researchers had to tinker with the AI's inner workings to make it work, which isn't always easy, but they're already thinking about ways to make it even better, like using smarter shortcuts to explore bigger options. All right, now, is this how it starts? AI solving delivery routes today, deciding who gets healthcare tomorrow? I want to know what you think. And hey, if you liked this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more wild tech stories, and thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.